So we jumped in with both feet.
And love the kids more than anything in the world.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
But I asked you, I said, hey, would you put your foot down?
They don't really know what's going on in your house.
This isn't completely unplanned. Yeah.
Game of Thrones, Succession.
Everybody watching this is busy, and
Because we get run down. We get tired.
I mean, everybody is their own person, obviously. You're a robot.
And I don't want to wish away time at all.
Which is in the best of relationships. It's a give and take.
There was a lot more, I think, trial by error when we were kids.
Technology has brought this world to a faster pace.
I don't know how, I feel like, no.
We talked on phones on the walls.
It's a great visual.
I love the fact that we're Gen Xers.
Could have just gone ahead and said the F word and then we'd all be in real trouble.
Sitting on a cactus.
Our children are more plugged into technology. We are more plugged into technology.
That's a great dad joke.
I feel like I'm constantly on maternity leave. I can't be focusing on a promotion.
But it's amplified.
I think you all get the point.
Eating chips and dip, watching Netflix today.
I know. They're kind of then my eyes and ears out there.
Everybody knew, let's go to her house and we'll go to their basement. And
It was beyond PJ time.
game off.
Game off.
It is ridiculous how scared Texans are of stuff falling from the sky.
Played us against each other in a very real way.
So was you, that's all I want to point out.
Yeah. I never gave the thumbs up. They were the ones who gave me a thumbs up.
We were so happy because the kids were going back to school.
I'm staring at a
I literally just learned about everything that's happening 2 minutes ago.
raising children, marriage, and career.
If I can just get to that horizon, dang it, there's another horizon.
Not that cheesy.
Oh my God, that's not cheesy, that's something else.
I do love a good high five.
More annoyed cop. I think 6 months from now, it's still an issue. And 6 years from now, it's probably still an issue.
Yeah, we actually had a competition, a hand clapping competition.
We don't talk about work in bed.
Sometimes it's good to hear that you're normal.
You're normal. We took an L on that.
We took a loss on that one for sure.
That's a thing. Skeet ball. Disclaimer, I'm a half expert on myself, and that's really where it stops. Because I know we're coming to the close of the first quarter here. Let everybody take a bathroom break. We got about an hour and a half left. We'll have a lot more to talk about.
And so will you.
We'll cut that.
Welcome to the Mr. and Mrs. Inglis podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shaen. We're here to talk about the wild ride of raising kids, growing careers, keeping life together in the middle of all the chaos.
So buckle up, because we're all in this crazy journey together.
To start.
When I say the word test, it starts us over every time. We can't actually start this.
Exactly. So let's start.
Okay. Right now.
Yes.
Okay. Go.
All right. Well, you're not supposed to laugh at me when I'm starting.
I'm sorry. You did a great job, though. Welcome back. We'll start there.
All right.
Go ahead.
You go. You're better.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back, everybody. We are here, Mr. and Mrs. Inglis, episode number 2. And it's exciting. We're actually filming on the day that we dropped episode number 1. And it's actually been pretty exciting, even though we've been working a full day today and you've been on calls back to back to back. We've been getting some feedback, and it's been positive, which is great. So thank you for those of you that reached out and took the time. I think, and one thing I know I'm doing too much is talking too much. So
I don't think so. This is a podcast where we're both supposed to be talking. So as long as it's, balanced.
yeah.
General mathematics would assume you should talk 50% of the time that we are talking. So I think you're hitting the right number.
I just felt like I was more like 80% of the time in the last one.
Oh, I felt like I was 80%. So maybe it was 50-50, and we're going to go with that.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's great to have everybody back. Thanks again. We're going to jump into this week, and we don't have as much maybe to talk about. We don't have a whole month and a half to talk about.
Right, which is nice. We can probably make this a little more digestible, and we can probably double click on a couple things. But, speaking about jumping right into the podcast, we jumped in feet first to this week because this was the first week back to school and our first full work week after the holidays. So we jumped in with both feet. And it's been a bit of a wild ride.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I kind of think about, and it's terrible to say it to some degree, but I think about this week. What's the Christmas song that talks about parents are excited for the kids to go back to school?
Oh, yeah. It is definitely a Bing Crosby song.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad can hardly wait for
Lives,
school
yeah.
to start again.
There it is, Mom. That's exactly what
Yep.
what it is. And love the kids more than anything in the world.
Yeah.
But it is nice for us to have our spaces again. You guys go there,
Yes.
and we'll stay here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because both of us work from home, when our children are home, that does create challenges during the workday. I don't know about all of you, but the children will come into our offices while we're working and carry on conversations with each other, not with us. And so I'm always like, well, what the heck? We have a whole house. You guys can talk. I don't know why you're doing that in here.
Well, you and I actually talked about that this week to some degree, that I asked you if you wouldn't mind, because they do that in your office.
Yes, they do.
They don't do that in my office for whatever reason. I think probably because, and these are, again, things that we can get to as we get further down this, but, good cop, bad cop. I'm generally the bad cop parent a lot of the time. But you let them come in there and just talk, and they just sit in there while you're on a call sometimes. And, we've got all the, it's a yellow meeting or it's a red meeting. If it's a red meeting, you got to get out of mom's office or dad's office.
Yep.
But I asked you, I said, hey, would you put your foot down for once? Not for once, but put your foot down and just say, hey, if we're working, our offices are kind of off limits, right? You can come in and say hi, but don't sit in there, because when they come into my office, I'm like, guys, I'm working. Like, I can't have you in here talking.
Yeah. And I'm on call so often that I think if they hear me being silent, that means, well, then mom must be available. I don't know where they got that. Needed. A red meeting is do not pass go, do not collect $100 or $200. It's leave me alone unless somebody is dying.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
I actually had to institute that and pull that back this week and say, red meeting, leave.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But they still think they can just come in there. And they're like, mom's the good cop because they can just sit in mom's office and talk. And then I'm the bad guy because I'm like, guys, because I can listen to music. In fact, I listen to music while I work. My brain needs that portion taken up.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, that doesn't work with kids talking to me and telling me things and asking about this or that.
Yeah.
I can't do it for some reason or other. We bring up a good thing, though, or a good point of something to talk about here, and we talk about it, and it's off script. Not that we have any script. We have literally 8 talking points that we may or may not get to, so this isn't completely unplanned. But one of the things that's not on there, and you brought it up, is we're blessed because we both work from home.
Yes.
And the only time that doesn't work out well for us is when I'm traveling or the few times that you travel also for work.
Right.
I just don't know how people do it in today's day and age. And I know a lot more people work from home than they used to, but still, a lot of people are going back to the office.
Well, yeah.
How do they do it? I mean, practice starts at 6 for us,
Mm-hmm.
and we leave at 4:40, sometimes 4:50,
Yep.
just to start from our house to get there in time.
Yes. And sit in traffic, and I don't know how we did it. I know for sure we woke up earlier
Yeah.
than we do now, but from a coming home standpoint, I mean,
But think about when we lived in Chicago. Like,
Yeah.
for a while there, I would get maybe there's several trains, the hard tracks to get out from downtown Chicago out to the suburbs. And I don't remember the train I took, or you were down there too for a while. But at some point, I worked my way from like the 6:15 train that got me home at 7 o'clock. Of course, this is pre-kids, so totally different. Maybe, that's why we moved out to the suburbs. But my point here is there's people that live or that work down in Dallas or in Irving or wherever it may be,
Right.
but they're in an office. They got to come home. You used to go to the office here. I've had an office down in Dallas multiple times, and that's an hour drive home. So if I work till 5, I got to come home. I get home by 6. Oh, guess what? You're going to be an hour and a half late for practice, and practice is over.
Yeah, and you may have, if your kids are staying home or you have after school care, you have to sometimes pick them up from after school care, or, I think the term from our generation was latchkey kids, and they're just hanging out and you expect them to be doing their homework. Hopefully they are, but you don't really know what's going on in your house and how they're running around. So I don't know, honestly, and my just all of the kudos in the world to those people who still have to do that and balance it all, because we are truly blessed to both work from home.
Yeah. I know there's people on our teams that can't do that. And, we talked about it last week. It takes a village, which I now know, but I'll forget that within another month or two. It takes a village. It's just incredible that the day and age, the expectations, like even last week, right? They moved up track practice to 4:30.
Right.
And even for us that work from home, I said it to you. I said, how do they expect us to do this? Like, I'm actually working.
Yes.
Like, I can only, that was my other point. The only way you can get people or your kids to practice at 6 o'clock if you work in downtown Dallas is you got to leave at 4:15
Correct.
to get home by 5. And I don't know about you, but I worry about my job at that point, right? What is my boss thinking?
Right, and that perception of you in the workplace. And, I like to think that schedules are getting a little more flexible, and, okay, if someone needs to leave at 4 o'clock to go pick up a kid or to go take a child somewhere, well, they probably then need to log on later that night. And that gets really hard, and it can wear a person down when, they really have no downtime because they've had to blend and flex their schedules so much that it has eliminated any free time or downtime or space that people need to rest and recharge.
We don't have any of that. And I feel like I talk about that a lot. Even our highlights, I was like, there's no time, and there's just no time. And by the way, we're busy. Like, I know everybody's busy. Everybody watching this is busy. And I know it's hard to, even carve out 10 minutes to do something on your own just to rest and relax, let alone 30 minutes or 40 minutes for a podcast. So thanks for doing that.
Yes.
We won't extend this to 2 hours, I promise, because we don't have that kind of time either.
Right.
But I feel like I'm hampering on that a little bit, really focusing on that. But I know nobody else has that time either. And you talk about the free time, and there's none of it. Like, we used to watch television shows at night,
Yes.
right? Like all of our favorites, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire. That was 5 years ago, 8 years ago maybe, that I remember actually sitting and watching TV.
And the times when we were able to binge watch a show,
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, Succession, some of those,
Yeah.
we haven't done that in years now.
No.
So, you talk about it. Yeah, the listeners here don't have time, but that's one of the reasons why we wanted to create this podcast, was to let people know you're not alone. We're all struggling, and we clearly don't have the right solution, because we get run down, we get tired, which is why we really, at least for me, I don't mean to speak for you, all year I look forward to that holiday break. I try to take a lot of time off, and it's amazing how tired I get. And I was like, gosh, how can I be sleeping till 8:30 in the morning? This is crazy. This is not adulting. But you're so tired from doing that for such a sustained period of time that, at least for me, my body just shuts down, and it's like, you need to sleep.
And that's even further compounded by everybody's kind of their own person. I mean, everybody is their own person, obviously, but everybody's got their own way of doing things, their own internal time clock, or whatever you want to call it, right? Their own need for rest and relaxation. And you and I know that. I mean, I'm sure everybody else out here knows how your spouse is, or your significant other is, or how your children are. But I am one, as sad as it is, we know it. I have to get that rest in at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are times that maybe I can push through, and we're going to talk a little bit about that maybe this week, of, work-life balance even.
Yeah.
We've been pushing pretty hard on this, but generally speaking, whatever it is for my brain or physicality or whatever I'm doing during the day, I have to be able to have some time to come down with that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I just got to get away. That's why I go run at night sometimes, or whatever it is. I need 30 minutes to decompress if I'm going to be worth anything. And I need to get enough sleep at night to feel that way too. But you're not like that. You're a robot.
Yes, I can go. And that's one way that we've kind of split up, the timeline. Now, again, my knee, if you watch the previous episode, you know all about it, has thrown a wrench in it because driving is a challenge. That's why I try to take, if we have a 6 a.m. practice, I try to do that one, because I know that I can manage through that.
Yeah.
And it will bother you, it'll bother you if you do it. So, I think that's just one of the things that it's the balance that we have to find and kind of what works for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we've been that way our whole marriage. And I think, in my opinion, I think the best marriages and the best of relationships, it's a give and take.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's not, if it's all take, it's not going to be good. So,
Right.
I can't take advantage of you by, you're a robot. And I'm like, you just keep going with it, honey. You got it.
Right. Because, it does eventually catch up to me. I can just probably sustain it maybe a little longer than you can.
Yeah.
But everybody needs that. And so hopefully people got that around the holidays, but know that that's I think a very real struggle, and a very real struggle, particularly at these years. I think forward, and I don't want to wish away time at all. I kind of love the chaos that this time brings, and I know that I will.
Speak for yourself.
Probably.
I love the times. I don't know if I love the chaos.
I keep reminding myself that this doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
Retirement will come, the children will be gone, and married with their own families. And we're going to be staring at each other going, wow, how did we do it all? And maybe we'll feel rested then.
Maybe. I think we will, and I think everybody will. I mean, that's just the way, that's the way of the world. That's, when you talk to like my mom or other people that have been through this process already, they know it's just this time of life, and, I don't always want to, make it sound as though the time that we're living in is always busier than the other people. But there's no doubt that 1980s when we all grew up, or the 90s when we grew up, technology has brought this world to a faster pace, right? We are accomplishing how many multiple times more than we used to.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked on phones on the walls, and if I wasn't at home next to that phone on the wall, in fact, I'm not even answer that. If nobody got to it in time,
Oh, yeah.
you didn't get a hold of me, and we were just gone. You talked about latchkey kids. I mean, I'm aware that I'm talking so much here, but I love the fact that we're Gen Xers. Gen Xers are really taking a lot of pride in how we grew up. Coming home with the street lamps. Parents had no idea where we were. We were just gone on our bike somewhere.
Yeah.
But we kind of came up hard not hard, but we learned the way of the world.
Right. There was a lot more, I think, trial by error when we were kids. We actually talk about this quite a bit when we're camping and, outside. You, growing up in Colorado, were climbing mountains and stuff from a very young age, doing things that, and I don't necessarily consider myself a helicopter parent, but if I knew my kids were doing some of the, risky things that you were doing by climbing a mountain, I would freak out. I don't know how, I'd be like, no.
Well, we've talked about that, and my mom's here right now, so when we get done with this, we can go ask her, but I would never have let my kids do some of the things I did, especially climb that mountain at that age.
Yeah, there's rattlesnakes everywhere.
Yeah. There's a reason why, there's stories of me climbing rocks, lifting myself up onto a rock and sitting on a cactus and then, rolling down the side of the mountain crying because I had, 1,000 cactus needles in my butt.
It's a great visual.
We'll cut that.
You're welcome, everyone at home.
My behind, my rear side.
You can say butt. It's okay.
Yeah, okay.
It's all right. Yeah. But,
Oh, you said it again.
No, I just said it.
That's a great dad joke. All right. That one will get cut. All right, let's keep going.
Love Actually is going through my head right now. I could have just gone ahead and said the F word, and then we'd all be in real trouble. Yeah, I think those years when we were kids and we were out playing and, doing all kinds of crazy things on a mountain and sitting on cactuses, that's different than today's generation. And our children are more plugged into technology. We are more plugged into technology. And I think that makes a lot of challenges from that work-life balance perspective.
Yeah.
You'll hold your phone at 9 o'clock at night and still get an email or an Teams message from a colleague, and you think you have to answer it.
Yeah. And that's where I was going, exactly what you're saying there. This is a busy time in life historically, right? Throughout the generations, childbearing, child raising years are busy years. But what we do now with all our plugged in capabilities, and to your point, I mean, you're constantly getting pinged by people you work with. And if they're not emailing you, they know after hours they're going to Teams you, or they'll text you. Like, I mean, next thing you know, they're going to be showing up at the front door because they just constantly expect to get a hold of you. And so I feel like it is busy, but it's amplified even more so than maybe it was when we grew up.
Yeah.
And that creates even more of a work life issue.
And it's true. And I think one of the things that I always talk to people about, if they ask me, how do you balance it? And I always start with everyone's balance looks different. And, as if you're climbing the corporate ladder or, and there's been times in my career where I said, you know what, I'm going to hit pause on any type of vertical movement. It was because I was balancing and I needed that balance to look different. I needed to lean in to family. I mean, we had 3 kids in under 4 years. And so there was a time at work where I was like, I just feel like I'm constantly on maternity leave. I can't be focusing on a promotion because that's not where I'm needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's also then conversations with your spouse or significant other is, when to lean in, because there's times when your spouse needs to lean in more to work. And so you're balancing not only just work life, but then even balancing within the family to make sure you have adequate coverage.
And even that, I mean, you hit on a thing. We're obviously, we both work, right? So we're a dual income family. We both work at fairly high levels. We both have employees that report to us. So there's a lot going on. And maybe even that's changed a little bit more since the 80s and 90s, when it wasn't as normal for there to be 2 working parents, right? So you had a parent that was able to. And even now, we have a lot of friends that are, stay-at-home moms. And I don't use that in a negative connotation. I don't know what else to call them. But I will say, and they will tell you too, they are crazy busy.
They are.
Right? They've got a million things to do. So they're keeping themselves busy one way or the other.
Right, and it goes back to what you said last time. It takes a village because I work outside the home. I guess that's a weird phrase since I work at home, but I think you all get the point. I can't donate as much of my time to the schools and, be involved in some of the things at the school that my stay-at-home mom friends do. And I rely heavily on them to help keep me plugged in and to make sure that, they're kind of then my eyes and ears out there to make sure that there's no trouble. There's nothing that I'm not aware of going on at the school because I'm not there as much.
Yeah.
And so it is hard to be a stay-at-home parent, and it's hard to be a working parent. And so I'm just glad that we actually have both because we need both.
Yeah.
Our son, we mentioned on the last episode that he just has this girlfriend, first high school girlfriend, and Monday the kids didn't have school. And so he asked if he could have his girlfriend over, and they were just going to hang out, watch a movie. I could let you tell the first part of the story and how how her mom dropped her off.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny. I mean, it all kind of came together quickly. And I watched her pull up, her mom, the girlfriend's mom pulled up in our driveway, and she let her out, and she came to the door. And I stood up in my office because my office is at the front of the house, yours is at the back. And I was just waving at her through the window saying, like, I got her, we're here, adults are at the house. And
Right.
I don't think she saw me because I was watching her. She pulled back out to leave the driveway, and she stopped. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? She got out of her car and came to the front door, basically. And to your point, I was still in my, sweats. And, I hadn't taken a shower yet that day. And I don't know what time she came over, but,
It was 1 or 2
It was
in the
late.
afternoon.
It was late.
It was beyond PJ time.
It was beyond time. I've been burning the candle a little bit, doing all these extra things for the podcasts and whatnot, which I love doing. But there's a big learning curve here and a lot to kind of get in place to hopefully make it be done right and whatnot. But anyways, I was I was embarrassed to some degree that, like, yeah, I'm not even ready and it's 1:30 in the afternoon. And she actually made the comment to me and she's like, "Oh, did you guys both work from home or are you just, eating chips and dip on the, watching Netflix today?"
I know, yeah. No, I'm just turning into Fat Thor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Fat Thor is a great one. So, so that was interesting. But she dropped the girlfriend off, and then that's where you're going with your story.
Yeah, so then I then go into where they're watching a movie, and they are on a beanbag chair together. It's a big beanbag chair, but still on a beanbag chair. And,
I think I was gone. I was at soccer practice later in the evening. But what we don't want to be, though, is those parents' house where, anything goes.
Right.
Because I know growing up, the person's house when I was in high school and junior high where anything went,
Right.
and it was, everybody knew, let's go to her house and we'll go to their basement. And,
Yeah,
they had very loose rules.
right. And we don't have loose rules at this house.
Yeah. So more to come on that one. We're kind of learning. I mean, we've been through that as in our lifetimes, but it's just it's awkward conversations in situations to be in with your child. And I'm glad because our kids are pretty open with us about some of these things, way more open than I ever was with my parents. And, you grew, I don't know what your household was like. I know what mine was like at that age. And we did not have those open lines of communication, period, let alone to talk about things that were more sensitive subjects like that would have been.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember I was a bit of an ugly duckling, and I didn't really come into my own or anything like that until much, much later. So I'm in uncharted territory, and I don't really know because at 14, I didn't have a boyfriend.
Right.
Rightly so, if you've ever seen my freshman year of high school picture. Gosh, I hope it doesn't ever make it to the internet. Anyway.
Yeah, it's right here. I'll put it up.
There we go. So, anyway, but the kids finally went back to school then on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I feel a little bit like the scene in Wayne's World when they're like, game on, because just as we got 2 days under our belt.
Game off.
Yeah, and they pull everything off, right? Like, it was totally that scene because we've now had a snow day for the last 2 days.
Yep. Two snow days now in Texas.
2 of them. Which, it was valid. We got 2-3 inches of snow.
Valid for Texas. Minnesota, Colorado.
Fair.
Ridiculous.
Right.
Ridiculous. Now, granted, I will note the caveats that I get it. Don't send me things saying Texas doesn't have the equipment to clear the roads and, all that kind of stuff. I get it. There's not a bunch of snow clouds around, but they do ice. They do pre-spray for ice and all that. And I also get if it's icy, no matter how good of a driver you are, you can. But that being said, those two caveats being said, it is ridiculous how scared Texans are of stuff falling from the sky. Let it be frozen like snow in the last 2 days or water.
It's true.
They freak out.
It's true.
Worst drivers ever. We knew that when I lived in Colorado, before I ever lived in Texas. It's like, this car flying by.
Hey, actually.
They're bad. The horrible driver. You knew they were from Texas. Sure enough, license plate from Texas.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't think we got many Texans up in Minnesota, so I wasn't aware of this stereotype.
But they probably can't even stay on the road to get up there long enough.
It's too icy or snowy.
Yeah, well, they ran off the road or got in a car wreck or something like that. Terrible drivers is the point. So, I mean, gosh, maybe I just squashed my own theory there, but Texas is protecting their people because they're such bad drivers. You put them on the road with an inch. I mean, the year we moved here, they canceled school for 2 years. This was 8 years ago for literally 1/4 of an inch of snow. 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
You remember that? We were still in corporate housing at that point.
Yeah, I really remember it because cut that.
We will cut that, but I'm going to leave in the discussion that we're cutting it because that was like the first who said something that maybe be sensitive to viewers, and it was you, just for the record, because it's usually me screaming something out. Like, some of these indoor soccer game comments come to my mind, which I can't obviously repeat here, but everybody goes, like, what did Shaen say? And I'm like, that was totally acceptable 20 years ago. So was you. That's all I want to point out.
Yeah. So the snow days, we had the kids then home another 2 days. So we had the problem with, children in the office and all of that, which...
So straight back to the beginning of this conversation, right? We were so happy because the kids were going back to school.
Yep.
And then they came back home.
Right. And then I think this is the first time our children have ever played us against each other in a very real way.
Oh, yeah.
And so both of us had busy days, and they were passing me Post-it notes. And they were trying to tell me that they were invited to their friend's house. Well, then they go into your office and indicate that Mom was okay if we go over to our friend's house. Are you okay? Long story short, they had this whole thing planned out and ended up getting picked up by their friend's parents. And we never even agreed to the fact that they could go.
Yeah, we had no idea. So, I mean, let's just first back up and just say, love these friends.
Love them.
Love these parents. Nothing wrong with that. Love that they can spend time with them, and thank you.
Yes, they're fantastic.
They had a great time. But, and I said it to the mom when I went outside, because they're like, we're going straight to sledding, and Liam doesn't have socks on. And I was like, well, I'm sorry. I literally just learned about everything that's happening 2 minutes ago, right? So we had to go back inside, and we were inside for 5 more minutes packing the right stuff because our kids were like you said, they were negotiating and arranging all this via text with their friends behind the scenes while they're like, Mom gave the thumbs up. And then, it didn't even stop at that. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, and we're going to spend the night there.
And for the record, I never gave the thumbs up. They were the ones who gave me a thumbs up. I'm staring at my screen, right? And I can just see out of my peripheral them standing behind me or in front of me going like this. I don't know what this means. And so I ignored them, as a great mom should do, because clearly this ended up in a situation where my kids invited themselves to someone's house.
And clearly, this is a situation where ignorance or ignoring them, means agreeance.
Right. So we have since had the conversation that is not to happen again. And so how do you think I handled that conversation with the kids today? Was I okay?
It was good, and it was great. And this is part of that good cop, bad cop that we talk about to some degree, because you and I, there's a few things, like I would say, over our 20-year relationship, there's a handful of things. There's 4 or 5 things that we will squabble about, and we get along really well, and probably to an annoying degree, maybe to some other people. Like, we just don't fight that much. We're okay. I remember somebody once asked, do you have any? What's your success?
Yeah.
What's your suggestion for success in marriage?
Yeah.
And I looked at you and I came up with it pretty quickly. And I said,
You did.
It's okay to tie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have a winner of every fight. I think that's something that I've kind of tried to live by, through the years. So it's okay to tie. And that's something that I've kind of lived by, for our whole relationship. And I think we both do. It's okay. Like, there's times when we'll just walk away. And, I'm sure if there was videos on each of our faces, we're both rolling our eyes, or it's a good thing. Internal
I've never
monologue.
rolled my eyes.
Yeah, neither have I.
Mm-hmm.
But the point there was, there's a handful of things that we know that we squabble about, and one of them, for me, and this, is the good cop, bad cop. Like, I am the bad cop parent. I lay down the law, and sometimes I feel like I got to lay down the law too much. And I'm like, can you jump in here? Just let them know you feel the same way. Even though you're standing back there, I don't know that they understand that it's not just dad. Dad's the one that's always mad. You know what I mean? So I did appreciate today, because it was I don't want to say one of the few times, but it is not the norm to get the talk from Mom. So, they both sat there and were like, we're in trouble.
Yeah. In fact, our daughter was nearly crying. So I thought it landed maybe. Not that I like to make them cry, but you know what? When they mess up, they need to know, and they need to know what the consequences are. So hopefully I did all right on that.
Yeah. I'm just curious how that works in households, if there's just always a good cop, bad cop, or if it's like, or if that changes, roles at times. Like, you're going to be the bad cop today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I've actually literally asked you at times, say, like, can you just please go be the bad cop?
Yeah.
You know, take that and run with it for the moment.
Right. Right. I knew how it was in my house growing up. We always had the same good cop and bad cop. So it was always pretty.
We did too.
Yeah. So
We did too.
So maybe, I mean, for the listeners, I don't know. Maybe it changes.
But maybe that bad cop sometimes wants the good cop just to be, you know, a little bit more annoyed cop rather than just so positive, because bad cop is like the worst.
Bad cop's not a fun place to be. As we unpack topics, I mean, I think work-life balance, we've spent quite a bit of time on that this time, and because I think it's really important and something that a lot of people struggle with, and you can tell it's top of mind for us, and how that feeds into the family and the family life, and how you can balance it all.
Well, it'll always be a topic, right? Because I think the way life works, at least for me, is you're struggling, you're hiking to get to that horizon, right? You're like, if I can just get done with this, or if I can just do that, if I can just get to that horizon, then I'm sailing free. You know, then I've made it at that point in time. And every time I get to that horizon, I look up, and dang it, there's another horizon.
I know, there's false summits everywhere.
Hey, thank you for saying that. That's probably the saying. I just didn't use the correct saying. But there's false summits, and I think because of that, you're always going to be struggling with the work life because there's something new. That next summit puts something in, like our soccer practices, for instance. Right now, all two soccers and track are at the same place.
Yes.
But at some point, eventually, that's going to change.
Right.
And that's going to completely reshuffle our work-life balance. Because right now, again, thank you to the carpool people. And thank you for the gentleman who drove this week, because I know he asked if somebody else could, and we couldn't.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it takes a village on that kind of stuff. And my point is, we hamper on it now, but I think 6 months from now, it's still an issue. And 6 years from now, it's probably still an issue.
Yes. Yep. Every phase, I think, with raising children, marriage, and career is different.
Yeah.
And it's how do you be agile and work through it, and yet still maintain the important relationships. I mean, we talk about it. We know that this is a very busy time.
Have we ever mentioned that?
I think so.
Okay.
Once or twice.
Okay.
But coming into retirement, you get some time back, but you also can't only invest in your kids and their lives, because once they move on, and this is something that we try to keep top of mind, we as a husband and wife need to keep our relationship strong, because that lasts longer than the craziness of having our kids in our house.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And so continuing to find time to invest in that and grow together through all of the chaos and the times that this time frame in life bring is really important.
And we can go down that tangent probably on another episode to some degree here, but I mean, we were really good, really up maybe to the last year or so, but we've almost always carved out time to have date night.
Yes.
If nothing else, date night. And I think another thing that's big for us, not to give away all of our secrets here, but I think another thing that's big for us, which honestly, I've heard from quite a few people that I don't think it's the norm. We go to bed at the same time every single night together.
Yes. And that is, that's just something that works for us, right? I think everyone has their thing, but that is huge for us because we get that time of whether it's getting ready for bed.
Right,
And
we're brushing our teeth together. We
and
read together in bed. And
right. Well, we read separate books, but we still read at the same time.
I read aloud to you till you get sleepy.
You're not that cheesy.
Oh my God, that's not cheesy. That's something else.
But it is good time together to reset. And there's a song from Ed Sheeran called Tides, and he says, "But time stands to still when I'm with you." And that is how I think about that time that we have, that 30 minutes or whatever it is of just getting ready for bed, reading in bed, where it's just us.
Yeah.
And we get back to us.
Yeah. And maybe that works for us because throughout our relationship and other people's relationship are different. Like you said, like they may have that 20 minutes together somewhere else in the day.
Right.
That they don't need to have that at nighttime. Or again, like we talked earlier, some people, like I know your mom, she's a night owl.
Oh, very much so.
So she likes to stay up late, and your dad goes to bed a little bit earlier. Now I don't know what they did their whole life, but I know in this chapter of their life, that's how it is, and it works fine for them. They are a lovely couple that loves each other, right? So there's nothing. I mean, everybody has it their own way, but I think what we're trying to say is find your spot.
Yes.
Find that moment.
Yes.
Right? Find those date nights. Find that moment in every day. I mean, that's an everyday thing for us. We go to bed every day together.
Yes.
And that's 20 minutes that we get to just kind of unwind and, and we do have rules in that too. It's like we don't talk about work in bed.
Correct.
Because we talk about work everywhere else.
Everywhere else.
It's dinging on us, they're texting us. I mean, everywhere else. So, I mean, you have to have some rules around things like that. Not that we're that strict, but I mean, that is one that I think is a good one.
That's a good hard stop. Yeah, like, okay, is this really a work we're not doing a work conversation. And so we'll pivot and stop, and we can pick that one up then the next day if we need to. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's really important to have that time because we need to ensure that we are fulfilling the most important relationships in our life.
Yeah. That's right. Well, we're on the same page for that too, so that's good.
It's good to know.
High five number 1 on the podcast.
I do love a good high five. It's just...
Remember that clapping thing that we did with all the kids? Like it makes that like hand clap noise?
Yes.
Yeah, that's like a thing. I mean, there's a lot of stupid things that kids do these days, and that's a thing.
Yeah, we actually had a competition, a hand clapping competition.
Yeah.
A little insight into our family. We are quite competitive. Game night usually ends in tears and fights in our house.
We've almost outlawed it to this point.
Yeah.
There's too many fights.
Too many fights. So,
I mean, in the circles that we run in, most of the families we know are that same way too.
Yeah, I don't think we're unique there. It does help give me some comfort that people are like that.
And it reminded me of our kids who they went sledding with. They're best friends.
Yes.
And they're great people. They have like a family texting string, right? Ours is like with everybody in our family, like our immediate family it's the Inglis's. That's all it says, is the Inglis's. So it's our kids and us. But theirs is, we'll use our name for the example. But it was like the Inglis's always win, or what is it?
Yes.
It's what it is, yeah.
That's what it is.
The name of their group chat is Inglis's always win, but with their last name.
Right.
Which is hilarious. So I don't understand. Everybody's competitive.
Yes.
But I still need to send them some of those pics that I took of our kids beating them at bowling. Skeet ball. What else was there? There's a couple other things too, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, the one where you knocked the clowns down. I think they beat us in that one for sure, but...
That's true. We did take a loss. We took an L on that one.
We took a loss on that one for sure.
That's funny.
It's good to know. And again, that's one reason why we like to do this podcast is because hopefully people are finding that to be relatable. I know I felt fantastic when I finally heard that other people can't do game night. I was feeling like a failure of a mother because I'm like, my kids always start fighting and crying and they hate this and it should be fun. But after talking to people, and they're like, well, that's how it always ends in our house, too. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. I thought it was just us.
That's a really good point. Not to gloss over that by any means. That's a really good point, because there are times, like, literally, I'm like, are we just crazy? Like, are we just raising the most hellion of kids? Like, they're so misbehaved. They're spoiled brats. And I think they behave really well, actually, when they're out in the real world. It's at home. They kind of let their guard down. But when other people say that, they can't have game night either too, that actually gave me a little bit of relief. So to your point, I think that's just some of the things that just come out of this that, maybe we're all a little bit more alike and normal than we all think we are.
Right. And sometimes it's good to hear that you're normal. Sometimes,
You're normal.
Are you?
I thought you said you wanted to hear that.
Yeah.
It's good to hear it.
I hope I'm normal.
I'm above normal. I'm above
I was gonna
average.
say, are you above normal then?
Yeah. Well, you are too. I mean, I wouldn't have married you.
Is that the gushing on you counter?
There it is. I had to get one. I hadn't had one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all that to say, I think the more content that we try to put out, it's really to help people know that you're not alone and what you're going through is people people are feeling the same way, sometimes that's enough to
Yeah.
make you feel like you have the strength to make it through another day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we are just making it up as we go.
Mm-hmm. And the only plug I would put there, because I know we're coming to the close of the first quarter here, let everybody take a bathroom break. We got about an hour and a half left, but no, we don't. But, you know, as if people want to hear things, I hope they reach out. Like, we're happy to discuss certain things, you know, on this podcast. So
Right.
if there's people that we know, you know, text us. That's fine. We're happy to talk about some of that stuff. It's kind of fun. I mean, like I said, we've got a lot of positive feedback back, which has been interesting and I don't want to say surprising, but it's just been really nice. It's been a relief. But also, you know, on the website, I mean, you can go to the website and, you know, contact us that way via the email. So feel free, you know, to send us some of those questions and whatnot. And we'll be more than happy to discuss some of those things as best as we can. Again, disclaimer.
I'm not a professional mom, and I haven't studied being, you know, all I have is my own experience, and I
Yeah.
think that's what we're going for.
I'm a half expert on myself, and that's really where it stops.
A half expert? I'd say you're 100% expert.
Oh, I don't know. There's times I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I feel like that all the time.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So, hey, you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're normal.
Oh, well.
Or you're above normal.
That's the rudest thing anybody's ever said to me.
You're above normal.
Just slightly, though.
But we would love to hear from the audience and the listeners about what, you know, things that are on their minds.
All right. Should we give everybody a bathroom break? Let them come back? Well, let's just come back next week.
Let's just come back next week.
Yeah.
We'll have a lot more to talk about. We have a birthday coming up next week.
You sounded like Mr. Rogers there almost. We'll have a lot more to talk about.
And so will you. I'm not going to sing on the podcast, I promise.
Not yet.
I don't think anyone wants to hear that. But, I mean, we're going to have another teenager in our house. So our daughter turns 13.
That's right. We cannot sign off without saying we got another birthday this weekend.
Another birthday.
Teenager in the house. She's been a teenager for 2 years, though.
Wow. Do girls just always grow up faster than boys? I feel like she has been worldly since she was about 4.
Yeah, socially,
Yes.
mentally, her attitudely,
Yeah, she can definitely have the
She can get
teenager
there.
attitude. Yeah.
dramally.
Yep, we definitely get some drama.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, but so we have that.
But happy birthday to you, baby girl.
Happy birthday. But then also you're headed to Las Vegas with our youngest son.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to figure out. We may have to do this via Skype next week. I don't know. I'll be in Vegas 2 out of the next 3
Yeah.
weekends.
Yeah, we actually joked that you may as well just stay there and fly the kids home since, you only have about, what, a 72-hour reprieve from Vegas?
Yeah, we considered it, but
Yeah. So lots to talk about, lots to unpack. So everyone will hear about the shenanigans of Shaen traveling with the kids and
the soccer parents
soccer parents.
and all the soccer team
Mm-hmm.
to Vegas,
Yep.
where it'll be 32 in the morning. So it'll be,
It'll be warmer here in Dallas
Yeah.
than it will be in Las Vegas. So
yeah, after all the snow melts.
Yeah.
So you'll be fine. And we'll find out more with your MRI next week. So more to come on that. More than likely a surgery coming the next X amount of weeks.
Exactly. So lots more to come.
Yeah, we'll talk about the headaches of our medical system on the next episode. Because I know you've been having fun doing that, and you're kind of in that industry, so
Yeah. No one needs to hear me go off on how frustrating it is, because really most people who've talked to me one-on-one have already heard it from me, for sure.
yeah. All right, well, let's sign off.
All right. Until next week, everyone. Take care.
All right. See ya.